Are you interested in freelancing on Upwork to make some extra income? If so, your job success score is either going to make that so much easier or way harder than it needs to be. So today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how Upwork calculates its job success score, why that matters, and some strategies that I use to help bring mine from at one point when it was down in the 70s all the way back up to a perfect 100% score and have maintained it ever since. If we haven't met yet, my name's Erica Nall. I'm a top 1% freelancer on Upwork out of more than 18 million other freelancers. I went from a six-figure salaried healthcare job to replacing that with a totally unrelated freelance skill of sales copywriting. I've since retired my husband. We now travel full time in an RV, and I get to set my own schedule, which, if you are a person that struggles with chronic illness like I do, you understand just how important that is. Upwork is the foundation that gave me the ability to do all of that. So I help beginners get started on Upwork completely for free to try and help you build that same foundation so that you can experience the same freedom that I have since built for myself. A quick heads up for anybody who may be joining this training either through the podcast or YouTube. This training is part of my Tuesday training series that I do for my free beginner community on Substack. If you are not already part of that community, I really encourage you to come join because every week, what you're hearing right now or watching comes directly to your inbox in both a video training and a written form of the training. So while I will do my best to describe what's on the screen, especially if you're listening via the podcast, some trainings are going to translate better than others to audio only. But just keep in mind that there is a full video where a lot of times I'm screen sharing and walking through things along with a written tutorial. You can join that free community at freelancewitherica.substack.com. I'd love for you to join. It's Erica with a C, freelancewitherica.substack.com. So that's my free community. So from here, let's go ahead and let's get started on talking about your job success score, right? Very, very important thing. So I want you to think about your job success score like it's your GPA or your credit score, right? So if you have a 4.0 GPA, all right, and then you get a C, that may drop your GPA down to a 2.8 or 3.5, right? And then that process of trying to climb your GPA back up to that 4.0 can take months or even years, or it may not even happen at all, right? It's much harder to try and climb yourself back up afterwards rather than having just to put in the work up front to maintain that 4.0 GPA. Okay. So your job success score basically works the exact same way. And the job success score on Upwork is critical because it impacts so many pieces that are part of the core foundation that sets you up for success on the platform. What I mean by that is it boosts your visibility. So the higher your job success score is, the more algorithm love you're going to get from Upwork on being served up to potential clients as matches. It also increases significantly the likelihood of you landing a job. Okay. So, and I think that that's just kind of common sense, but clients, just like how you and I look at reviews when we're going to go to a restaurant or we're going to stay at a hotel, right? We look at the reviews, we care about the star ratings, right? And we want to pick the best value along with the best quality, right? So they're going to be balancing what are you charging and offering versus what do your stats tell me, right? So if you have a lower job success score, you're working from a disadvantage, just like how the student with the 4.0 has an advantage over the student with the 2.8, right? So we really want to be protective of it from that standpoint. It also helps attract in new clients. So again, when people are, the algorithms might be serving you up, so you're showing up on people's search pages or when they post a job, Upwork always gives them a page that shows here's potential freelancers you could work with. But then even then they're scanning, right? And so those metrics, like what's your job success score, really matter as far as whether or not they're going to stop the scroll, look at you, and click through to potentially do work with you. All right. It also plays a big role in the Upwork badging system. So there are different badges that you can earn on Upwork, starting from rising talent when you're just a baby, beginner freelancer. But then from there, it moves into top rated plus, and expert vetted, which expert vetted is the top 1%. All three of those require you to have a good job success score. I'm pretty sure it's 90% and above. we'll have to actually look into that. But off the top of my head, I think you have to keep a 90 or above, which is what my recommendation is going to be for everyone that I work with, is that our goal is to keep you at 90 or above. The closer to 100, the better, obviously, right? Um, when I first started on Upwork, I was winging it. I first started back in 2019. I ended up quitting because I was winging it. I had no strategy. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And in that process, my job success score was all over the place. I started off strong when I first started, had, I don't know, I can't remember if it was ever 100, maybe it was briefly, but it always felt like it was hovering in like the mid 90s to high 90s. But then it was like, then I'd have a job and it'd take it down to the 80s, and then it would come back up to the 90s, and then it would drop back down to the 80s and be back to the 90s, right? And so I was very haphazard in what I was doing. I was working, I had no specific niche I was in. I was just doing like any random job. I really was treating it more like a hobby on the side than a serious income replacement tool, which it can be. And with that, because I had no strategy and I really hadn't taken the time to truly understand how the system worked, that at that point, I wasn't using it like the powerful tool that it is for new freelancers. Okay. When I came back to the platform at the end of 2023, I had been away from the platform for so long. And I think maybe a few times in between, like I hopped in occasionally, like I would just get like a random urge to be like, oh, let me go check in on Upwork and maybe I'll apply for some jobs. So I think there may have been a few little like random times I had hopped in between. And in that process, somewhere along the way, and I think it was the way how they had their calculation set up at that point in time, me being away and not being active on the platform was actually causing my score to just go lower and lower. So I wasn't actively doing contracts, I wasn't doing anything, I just wasn't active on the platform anymore. And I think that at the time, I think they've since changed the way how they do it, but I think at the time they were using that score to lower so that I'd be less likely to then be like served up because they knew I was inactive on the platform. I wasn't participating anymore. So when I came back, my job success score, I think it was like a 73. I wish I would have screenshotted it. It was low. It was like embarrassingly low. And I knew that I was going to be at this huge disadvantage when I came back. In order to try and get some momentum when I was ready to start really seriously trying freelancing again. And so I had to really claw my way back, and it took a lot of effort. I had to send way more proposals than probably people normally would need to, because I was at such a disadvantage, and there's so much bias when you have a low score like that, that people you have to really sell yourself. You have to like make your case. And so I was having to disclose up front to people that I had been away from the platform for over 2 years, and that the system had lowered my job success score over time, and that I'm back. I'm trying to earn my way back to a better job success score. But please, like, take a minute and go look at my reviews, because if you went and actually looked at my reviews, I had just nothing but happy clients, great, fantastic reviews. I pulled those forward in my applications on my profile to really try and showcase that to clients. But again, they're just having to take a random freelancer in their inbox's word over other people who had 100%, 95%, 98, right? And so I don't want any of you to have to go through that experience of having a very low job success score that then you're trying to earn your way back to 100. Because I can tell you from my lived experience, it's very challenging. It's a challenge that I don't want you to have to deal with. So that's why for me, one of the big focus points that I have with teaching beginners and freelancing is that I want you to have the strategies from day one to set yourself up to immediately have an amazing job success score and maintain that job success score so that you're never behind the eight ball trying to catch up. Okay. So that's what we're going to go through today. Let me just peek real quick here at my notes to make sure. Yeah, so the goal here is that we're going to keep you above 90% and above, closer to 100, even better. And I want to give you the knowledge and the strategies so that as a beginner, you're well positioned to have a fantastic job success score out of the gate. If you are newer to my world and you haven't heard me talk about the 10 days to paid Upwork challenge yet, That is my free course that I give to you as a beginner. I also have another mini training that if you don't know what skills yet you want to try and use for freelancing, or if you're thinking, I don't know what I would do as a freelancer, I have a whole training and a tool that helps map your skills to a freelance ready service. Okay. So I literally have everything that you need, from figuring out what you're going to offer to how do you actually get on Upwork and land your first jobs and get your first reviews, 100% for free. So inside 10 days to paid, I go in depth into strategies on how you are going to be super protective of your job success score, even if you have some tricky situations come up with clients, even if they don't like your work, right? And so that way, when you, if you run into any of those negative client experiences, you are armed with the knowledge that I had to learn the hard way, so that you can hopefully help protect your job success score from dropping unnecessarily low. Okay. Upwork used to be really protective of what they would share when it came to job success score. So Upwork used to, you would know that generally it was like multiple factors they were pulling in. The obvious ones you would assume would be like client ratings, both public and private. But they would not actually tell you what all factored in. That changed at the end of last year. And as for those of you who've been with me now for a while, going through these trainings, you've heard me say over and over again that Upwork is constantly changing their platform. So as you go through these trainings, the things that I share in these trainings, these screens may be different depending on when you're watching it. They move stuff around, they add new buttons, they add new features. So one of the features that they added at the end of last year, which actually was a fantastic add, was adding in the stats and trends board where you could see a lot of your data in one screen. And with that, there's a job success score section. And inside of it, they go in depth and they tell you exactly what is factoring into your job success score. And you have total transparency of seeing contract by contract how those different contracts are impacting your job success score, which is amazing. So we have more transparency than we ever had before. So I'm going to take you behind the scenes in my account. We're going to go look at this together. I'm going to show you, and we'll walk through what the different factors are when it comes to your job success score and how we can make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you get started in freelancing. Okay. One caveat I also want to mention, again, for those of you who may be newer to my world, is if you don't know my story, as I mentioned, started in 2019, left, came back at the end of 2023. It was September of 2023. I came back with a vengeance and I took off real quickly. And I feel like I became like top rated within just like a month or so of being back. And then started to really get some momentum as I began specializing in sales copywriting. And probably not even 6 months later, I feel like it was Q1 of 2024, I was already starting to transition my business off of Upwork into being an off-platform business. So what that means is it just means that you're a service provider who isn't needing to use a platform like Upwork anymore where the clients are. Like, so Upwork really is bringing together clients who need a service with freelancers who are ready to provide it. One of the biggest hurdles most people have who dream of having an online business, who dream of working for themselves, and it doesn't matter if it's a service provider job or if it's courses or memberships, the biggest hurdle people have are sales. How do you get clients? How do you get people in? How do you market yourself, right? And that's where a lot of people fall down. And so by the time that I put my work in on Upwork and built a base of very happy customers who were referring and tagging me on social media with like other people within their network. So when people were looking for a copywriter or somebody needed, at the time I was starting to transition into actually building out, stacking my skills. So taking my copywriting and then I was taking my operations skills and I was starting to actually build things for people, helping them with their funnels, helping them build their email automations. So then people started tagging and referring me. And then it became very easy because now I had that sales part, which is typically the hard part, happening naturally for me. And because I already had the skill sets that I knew how to stand up my own website, my own calendar to schedule people, how to do invoice and billing, I just started transitioning my business offline. So currently, and really for the last year plus, most of my income and my job is off platform. I have kept two clients on Upwork that were copywriting clients. One of them's been with me pretty much since the beginning. And then I have another one. They were like two dreamy clients that I have kept doing work for them on an as needed basis. So they know that I've since moved off. But they're the two that I keep coming back. So as we hop in and we look at my stats, I just wanted to preface that to make sure that people understand that I'm not on Upwork actively anymore, other than to do work for those two clients. And the other thing I want to mention with this too, and part of why I'm taking time to call this out, is just because I know, because I've been on the receiving end of this as a person who buys a lot of courses and joins a lot of programs. I know that there's a huge recession of trust right now of people who make all these big, bold claims or different promises online, right? And there's a lot of fake it till you make it people. I have been victim to that. And so, if there's any part of you that, as I share these things, part of why I'm giving you so much context is because I just want you guys to have like full trust and belief in what I say. So, if there's any concerns, like if you're watching this and are like, but look at her 12-month like income, I highly encourage you join 10 days to paid if you need to feel a bit more trust, because on I think it's on day two or day three, I take you behind the scenes in my business all the way down to you guys are looking in my bank account and I'm sharing invoices and I'm sharing the back end of my current business, so that way, hopefully if you're feeling any sense of like, but is she really, then you can see for yourself. Okay. So with that, let me share my screen and I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for to look at our job success score. Okay, so you should be seeing my Upwork profile right here. Where you're going to go, and again, keep in mind that Upwork changes constantly. So I want you guys to listen more to the intent of what I'm telling you to do. But when it comes to actually watching what's on my screen and where I'm clicking, these things may move around. They may be called something different, but they will likely still be somewhere in here. It just may not be in the exact workflow that I show you as I do this training. So I'm going to go up here to my profile where my name is. I'm going to click and you'll see an option here called Stats and Trends. So Stats and Trends is where we're going to head. I'm not going to spend too long on this full screen, but I am just going to touch high level because I thought there were some neat points to show you guys. As we go through, especially for those of you who are going through 10 days to paid or have already gone through 10 days to paid. Okay. And so that is that for you guys that have been through the program, I know you guys have heard me say over and over again, it will never be harder than when you're a beginner. You have to put in disproportionate effort, disproportionate amount of proposals. You're doing it for the least amount of an hourly rate, right? And I know I keep telling you guys, but it gets easier. Like you guys have to trust me, like go through the grind at the beginning and it will get easier. Everything gets easier. And so I just want to show you, because you're able to see this right here in my stats, exactly what I'm talking about. So I have been pretty much inactive on this platform for the last uh a little more than a year. So like other than coming on and dealing with my current clients, okay? So I'm not in here doing anything. And if we look, so like here's 2025, in all of 2025 I sent one proposal and I got hired. And I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I think that was just a past client invited me to a job that they did and it was like an easy small scale job and I went ahead and proposed to go ahead and do it for them. But look at this. So, profile views. I'm not even active on the platform, right? And these profile views, I'm not boosting it. I'm not doing anything, but I'm getting served up. And Upwork is naturally doing that because I am a top rated and an expert vetted freelancer, right? And I have a 100% job success score. People are happy with my work. So they are naturally serving me up within here. But here's the part that I think is especially fun, and this is what I'm looking forward for you later too, is again being completely non-active on this platform other than I log on to interact with those two clients and do jobs for them. That's it. I'm still getting invites to jobs. And so with an invite to a job, you don't have to spend your connects. You're also way more likely to get hired for those jobs because they've actually looked at your profile and invited you in. My rate on my profile on Upwork is $333 an hour. Okay. So and then this is the other part. Look at how many connects I have. I have almost 1,000 connects sitting in my account. So when you're a beginner, those connects are going to feel like you are just spending money for the pleasure of applying for jobs, and it's going to feel really frustrating. Okay. And those connects are going to feel really minimal, and you're going to have to spend a lot of them. But with every job that you get, with every great job success score that continues, like every job that closes with a great testimonial that keeps supporting your job success score, you're going to have to spend less and less connects as you go because you're going to start getting invited to jobs, because you're going to start having repeat customers who come back and invite you to do their job, because you're going to have repeat customers that just come direct to your inbox and you guys just open up a new contract together. Okay. It gets to be way easier, way easier. All right. So what I want to focus on here though is this job success score. Okay. And so here, if you look at your job success score, for most of you who are beginners, this won't even have a score. It'll just be like a dash, just telling you like you don't have a job success score yet. So we're going to go through that as far as what do you need to do to get a job success score? And then what are the factors for that job success score that help you maintain a 90 plus job success score? So we're going to hit view insights. Once you're inside of here, they have like a little 1.5 minute long video. It's not super informational, but you could watch it if you want, about how it works. But really, everything you need is right here. They tell you exactly what the requirements and the factors are when it comes to your job success score. So up here, you can see they're showing you what your current score is. And then underneath the score requirements, it's telling you what you need in order to even just get a job success score. So job success scores are calculated daily, okay? And it's going to keep looking every day for, have you completed 2 eligible jobs and have you worked with 2 unique clients? So that's step one. If you're a beginner, you need to work with 2 unique clients and you need to have 2 eligible jobs. Once you do that, you will be signed a job success score. And that will be primarily based on their client satisfaction. So, how did they rate you publicly? How did they rate you privately? Because with these brand new baby beginner sort of jobs, you're not going to be getting the long-term relationships, the higher earnings, the contract length sort of factors that they factor in. That's going to come later on when you're further down the road in your freelancing thing. So we're going to focus really heavily up front on client satisfaction and making sure that we're managing the feedback process with that client in order to make sure that we're going to have the best possible job success score once we land our 2 unique clients and our 2 jobs. The next one, like I said, is client satisfaction. That's pretty straightforward. But on Upwork, they ask the client when you're done with a contract, when you close a contract, they ask them to give feedback. That feedback has both public facing and private facing. So the public facing feedback is a 1 to 5 star rating. Okay. And then with it, optionally, they ask them to write you a review. While that written review is not factored in, that is also critical for helping you set up a great foundation for other people to want to work with you. So again, in 10 days to paid, I walk you through with all the scripts, the swipe files, everything you need in order to get your best chance of getting great written reviews along with a 5 star review. So that's public. Private facing is once the client is done rating you and leaving a feedback, then Upwork says, cool, thanks for sharing that with us. But now tell us, how did it really go? Like, how would you rate this person on 1 to 10? How likely would you refer them to someone else, right? And so the private feedback is usually the more, I don't want to say dangerous, but like that's the more seedy one where you might be more likely, where a lot of people don't necessarily want to, even if they, let's say there was something that they didn't like about your job, right? Um, or working with you, they're still going to be more likely to still leave you a 5 star review. Maybe they won't leave a written portion, but then when they get to the private, that's where the danger is of them being like, actually, I had some issues, and then they might rate you lower. So again, in 10 days to paid, I walk you through exactly how to handle that so we get in front of it and make sure that I have like exact word tracks and swipes that you'll use when you get to the end of the process with the client on how to make sure that we are protecting ourselves to get good private private feedback. Okay. So both public and private feedback are going to factor in along with the reason for the contract ending. So when a contract closes, there's a little drop down and it has a variety of different reasons. The very top one is job completed successfully. That should be, I mean, short of a very specific outlying sort of reason. Um, I would say like 99% of the time, that should always be the reason that we're closing a contract, right? And then part of the training, what I walk through with you guys is that when we do end up with contracts with clients where there may potentially be an issue, or they're not liking what's done, I go through strategies of how to help manage that and how to make sure that you don't end up, or at least take our best shot at not ending up with them selecting a contract ending reason that would not benefit us or that private feedback. Okay. And then long-term relationships. So next it talks about in long-term relationships, they are counting that as a client where from the first payment that they made you, so let's say you start working with a client, you're working with them hourly. Upwork calculates timesheets weekly, right? So at the end of week one, when you finish up your work and you officially are getting paid by that client for the first time, they start a timer from that point in time to 90 days. And if you are still actively going on with that client, still working with them, still getting payments, that is considered a long-term relationship. So they know that you're still doing active, ongoing work with that client 90 days later from that first payment. And so basically you get kind of like a bonus in the weighting on it. The other part where this factors in, you'll see this here in a second when I show you my own contracts and how this is being weighted, is this also helps when you have long-term contracts that you keep open with clients. Part of the challenge before used to be that if you don't close that contract, how do you get the client ratings, which then impact the job success score, right? Because your long-term open contracts are some of your best ones, but if the people aren't, if the contract isn't closing so that you can't have that client satisfaction, how do you get credit for it? So that's part of how they do that, is that by saying this is a long-term relationship, you're basically getting the same benefit from a long-term relationship open contract as you are when you have maybe a shorter term contract that gets closed down and the client leaves you positive feedback. Okay. Next one is higher earnings. So again, they weight the credit that you get towards a job and the happiness of that client based on the value of the contract. So if you are doing a job that's $250 and under, they count that as one job. If you're doing a job from $1,000 down to $251, that is counted as 1.25 jobs. And if it's more than 1,000, they give it the weight of 1.5. So basically what they're saying is if it's a higher dollar client, if it's a higher stake sort of job that's paying more, we are going to give the feedback from the client on the $2,000 job more weight in how successful you are in your work than a client you're doing a $20 job for, right? So if you get a 4-star review or maybe a negative public review on the $20 job, right? That's only going to count in the way how they do their math as one job. But meanwhile, you go do a $2,000 job for a client and they give you glowing reviews and nine, or not 9 stars and 5 stars. That's going to be weighted as 1.5 jobs that did it, right? So you can start to counteract if you had a lower one with taking some higher paying, higher dollar jobs. Okay. Next is your contract length. So they're looking at how long is a contract open. So this also works well with the long-term relationships. You actually can get almost like double credit. So again, this is going to come later in your freelancing journey that these things will matter more. But I think it's still important to know what these factors are that impact it. So, any contract that has at least one payment every 90 days is considered an extra job. So, they show an example on the screen where they've got like a little timeline that has like start 90 days, 180 days, 270 days. So, basically a 9-month period. And then they're showing that in between each one, as long as that contract has at least one payment between each of those 90 days, they're going to count it as 3 separate jobs. So that is really nice that once you start getting those longer term ongoing contracts, that one, we know that those clients are happy because they're in a long-term ongoing contract with you. But as long as it continues to be ongoing work, you're going to continue to get more and more credit towards your job success score for that. And then finally, it goes through ineligible jobs. So ineligible jobs just mean the jobs have no earnings or the client didn't leave feedback, which happens more often than you would think, which is why it's really important to know how to coach your clients through that to leave feedback. And then any jobs where the feedback was removed. So if those three things happened, they count that ineligible to be part of your score. So the last part I want to walk you through is I'm just going to bring you down. And as I mentioned, I'm only working with two clients now on here, just on an as needed basis. But what is really neat is as you scroll down, within here, it's going to show you your eligible jobs and your ineligible jobs over the last 24 months. And then with that, it's also going to show you the factors that for each job are being attributed to your score so that that way you can very easily see, okay, like this is an open contract I have. So my two clients are Embrace Pet Insurance and then I call them the brothers, but it's two brothers. They have multiple businesses. One of them is medical house calls. So, but with Embrace, they have different departments, and different departments will open up different contracts, which is really kind of nice as far as like my contract count and stuff. So, like, this is Embrace, that's Embrace, this is the brothers, Embrace, Embrace. So, like, you're going to see all this stuff coming through here. But what's nice is on every single unique contract, I can see, okay, this is a long-term relationship. This one was due to being a higher earnings one, so it was more than 250 on that one. The length of the contract and it being a long-term relationship. This one, higher earnings, so $9,000 on there, the contract length and the long-term relationship. So you can see how one contract can actually get you credit from multiple different ways if you're hitting multiple factors in how they calculate it. Does that make sense? So, and then what you'll notice here too is that these are all open contracts, which is why there's no review score or client satisfaction. But then starting to get here, you can see that this was a closed one that I did. So here's their review, and then you can see I'm getting credit for client satisfaction on that one. And then we could keep going back to more. So like Embrace, Embrace. Like it's all pretty much the stuff, but client satisfaction, client satisfaction. This one was a higher earnings one with a long-term relationship. This one, client satisfaction and higher earnings. That one, client satisfaction, right? So I want you just to have awareness of that tool being here under stats and trends. Go to the job success insights, and inside of here you can go through and you can look, and it has in detail, there's like little learn mores on each of these, and some of them are pretty helpful, like this one. I'm in client satisfaction right now, and when you click the learn more, it will even go into further detail. So it'll say when you receive 3 or more stars, the job is considered to be successful. However, if private feedback or the contract ending reason was negative, that will override your public feedback and the job will be considered unsuccessful. A $0 contract with negative client satisfaction will also be included in your score and will be considered unsuccessful. One of the things that they aren't specifically telling you, like they are with the public feedback, is the private feedback. I've heard before in the past, so again, they don't actually disclose their full algorithm details. So I can only, this is like anecdotal, but what I've heard is that I think anything that's a 7 or less on the private feedback is considered unsuccessful. So they're looking for an 8, 9, or 10. Our goal obviously every time is to get a 10, but and I don't know that to be fact. That's just again hearsay from people guessing, because for a long time we were all just trying to figure out what the factors are. So this is the most transparent they've ever been in showing all of those details, which again is lovely. So I encourage you to hop into your account, jump around in here, take a look. But these are the factors that are, again, are going to impact what your job success score is when it comes to freelancing on Upwork. All right. Okay, I'm going to switch back here to full screen so that we can be face to face as we wrap this up. So hopefully after today's training, you have a much better understanding of not only how the job success score works on Upwork, but how critical it is and how easily it can slip, especially when you're a beginner when it comes to freelancing. And so my goal for you is that we get in front of that before you ever start on day one. All right. And that is exactly why I built the 10 days to paid Upwork challenge. This challenge is 100% for free. And when I say 100% for free, what I mean is there's not going to be any gotcha moments when you start going through it where I'm withholding resources and asking you to buy it in order to, well, if you want this profile or this proposal, buy this template pack or whatever. Nope, you get it all 100%. Every swipe file, every AI prompt. I've built you tools and resources and trainings. You will have absolutely everything that you need 100% for free. So, and that is the way how this entire process works with my free community is everything that you need from figuring out what area you might freelance in to getting started and landing your first clients is completely on the house. I'm never going to ask you to pay a dollar for it. And beyond that, I also have a chat, a community chat on the Substack group where I'm in there coaching for free. So I encourage you guys to bring me as you're going through 10 days to paid, as you're going through find your freelance skills, which I'll have the links down below for both of those resources. But as you run into things there, I want you to bring it to me. Bring me your profile, bring me your proposals. And I want, or tricky situations you're running into with clients. And I'm going to personally hop in and coach you in there for free, right? So this is truly, if you've been interested in freelancing, this is everything you're going to need to get started and to be successful in that process. The other thing with 10 Days to Paid that's really exciting is that I've proved that it works. So we used my kiddo, who is a 22-year-old Starbucks barista, and he was our guinea pig, which we documented his process following the 10 Days to Paid challenge to make sure that everything that I'm teaching as I'm teaching works. Because again, I came back in 2023. I felt very confident that my strategies and the way how I did stuff still works. But I wanted to see it working on someone that truly was a beginner, someone truly doing work in a totally unrelated area than what his professional experience is, right? You can't serve coffees on Upwork. Um, and he landed his first job within 6 days of starting to send out proposals. So it is validated. We know that it works. And inside of 10 Days to Paid, you'll get to go behind the scenes and see every step of that and see how it unfolds, which is very exciting. So again, absolutely no cost to any of it. I would love for you to join. The link will be down below if that is of interest to you. And otherwise, I will be back in your guys' inbox next Tuesday. And in the meantime, make sure you guys drop your wins in our community chat because I can't wait to celebrate with you. All right. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday. And again, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat.